My recent video on sausage rolls and my attempt to do a better sausage roll than those amazing bakers at Greggs was a viral hit. It wasn't really a viral hit, but it was fun nonetheless. However, I realise I'm ignorant, aren't I? I'm bigoted because there was no vegetarian or vegan option. Yes, not everyone likes sausage meat. I don't really know that much about vegan food, so what I thought I would do is try my Greggs challenge, my Greggs sausage rolls challenge, but this time with a vegan option. And this is compounded by the fact that I do have a couple of vegan friends, and I keep going and showing them look at my food, look how lovely my duck is, or my sausage roll. It's like, yeah, that's all right, mate. I'm vegan. Yeah, that's offensive. So in the spirit of their kindness and their compassion, I'm gonna give it a go. So can I make a better vegan sausage roll than Greggs? In the interest of transparency, I will admit straight off the bat that I've never had a vegan sausage roll from Greggs. Generally speaking, I've avoided all vegan food, certainly processed vegan food. And in the case of Greggs, rather than the sausage meat, it is a corn filling. I did not want to go for any meat substitute as I'm a pure guy and I wanted to go for actually proper vegetables. Because surely the point of going vegan is that it's healthy food and not made in a lab somewhere. Now, as a card carrying carnivore, I've very rarely tried anything in terms of alternatives to meat. One thing I have found that's really good actually is aubergine. If you slow cook aubergine, it really sort of completely deconstructs and creates a really nice texture. I did that with courgettes, hence why I'm going to use aubergine, courgettes is the main body, and sprinkle in some mushrooms and some spring onion. I use this aubergine recipe as an alternative to meat when it came to a fajita. I had a ton of aubergines left and needed to use up some wrap, so I was like, let's give it a go. And it surprisingly worked. And of course, I didn't know till recently what the aubergine emoji means, so maybe I shouldn't use that. Not least in a video with sharp knives. Anyway, let's get on with it. So we use a pair of scissors and dice up the spring onion nice and little. Next up, you take your aubergine, or no, do what I instead do, which is take your aubergine, realise there's a sticker still on it, and then spend the next few seconds awkwardly trying to peel the sticker off. Oh, let's fast forward this bit. Cut up the aubergine any way you see fit. I tend to do it into smaller pieces. They don't have to be the right size. They can all be pretty random because ultimately what we are going to do is put it into a pan and cook it slowly and reduce it to mush, like my brain. And of course, anyone who's handled an aubergine will know that the exposure to the air starts turning the flesh quite brown quite quickly. I'm not sure this actually turns it in any way or makes it more unpleasant or whatever. Just aesthetically, it doesn't look so nice. So try and keep it chopped up and ready to go nice and quick, as otherwise it may not be looking as pretty as it could. I suppose it doesn't matter because the outcome of this is going to all be stodgy and brown anyway. So let's play on. And alongside the aubergine, another suitably shaped vegetable is courgette. Courgette is an interesting one. It can be quite fleshy. I think if you cut it lengthways and do them as sort of almost like steaks, really, they can be quite nice. But they also have that fantastic ability to disintegrate into a really nice pasty kind of gooey texture, which sounds horrible, but in fact, it's really nice. But anyway, so we do the same with the courgette, chop it up into little pieces. Before moving on to the mushrooms, there's just something about a mushroom. It's like a workhorse, isn't it? It's like a solid, dependable bit of vegetable. It kind of works with absolutely everything, really. And I also quite like the fact that mushrooms have a lovely soft texture to them. So that adds another little bit of fun to the proceedings. Okay, so once all these are chopped up, we put a splash of olive oil into a heavy size pan and we get ready to fry them into infinity. And actually, I just realised that this recipe is longer and more complicated than the basic sausage roll because I have to jump through different hoops and be creative. Oh, that's quite good. I like that. So in go the vegetables to the pan. I'm using a simmer heat because I want to do this very slow and low. Might take it half an hour or so, but we're going to try and wilt these vegetables down into a combined mixture that has a nice, hopefully tasty vegetarian slash sorry vegan twist. Add some seasoning, some salt and pepper, and some herbs, whichever combination of herbs you would like. As this was my first time, I thought I'd try something a little bit different and add a bit of paprika and a sprinkle of Tabasco just to have a hint of something hot. I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but let's try. If you keep a lid handy, it's quite good to cover the mixture for a little while. What happens is that it sweats, glows. The warmth, the condensation under the lid goes back into the vegetables and keeps the whole thing very moist and helps build that consistency. Now, I went through a few different stages of this. As I said, it takes up to half an hour, so I will speedily move along. This is just over halfway through the process, and as you can see, those vibrant colours have turned into rather bland brown slodge. However, it's not about the aesthetics, it's about the taste. Never judge a book by its cover, even if it's an ugly book, like me. One of the downsides of, well, it's not necessarily a downside because it's an upside, but one of the initial downside is that you cook this way, you can often get a lot of stuff sticking to the bottom of the pan and a lot of clunk. However, that clunk adds flavour, so feel free to take a bit of red wine vinegar or white wine vinegar and splash it in there to deglaze the pan. That also adds an extra zing to the recipe, at least hopefully it will. Keep taking the lid off every 5 minutes or so to stir back in the moisture, and at some point it will start to resemble meat. Yes, it will start to resemble mince, sort of in a way, but it's the best I can do with a vegan option. Once you are about half an hour in, you should be at the right level of texture and consistency. What I did here was obviously take out that final shake off and moisture into the pan, give it a final stir, and then just look at the way look at the difference and how much it's all mashed together in a really fantastic, gloopy but glorious way. We need to cool this stuff down, so you can take a bowl and have a little last look at your amazing handiwork, what you've created with your own bare hands and not bought from a corn packet. So this was my first time attempting this recipe from scratch, made the whole thing up myself. But I was a little bit worried because obviously the mixture goes into the pastry, into the oven for a second cook, and I was a tad concerned that the consistency may gloop out and it may turn into a lot more liquidy. So what I did was put in some breadcrumbs, vegan breadcrumbs, just to make sure that hopefully the mixture bound enough to stay in one piece. As with my traditional sausage roll recipe, I'm just using shop bought pastry. Very easy, very simple. What you need to do is just take that out 10 minutes before you are prepared to use it. And I don't know what it is. Anytime there's some weird plastic thing to open, certainly maybe it's the pressure of being on camera, I can't do it. So I look like a complete and utter imbecile. So if you find yourself in that situation, like me, just use a knife. The next stage is to cut the sheet of pastry into two separate sections. Do that lengthways, if you will. We then take the vegetable mince. Is that a term? Can I say vegetable mince, or does mince have to be meat based? No, actually, it doesn't, does it? Because you have mince pies. So no, I'm going to go for vegetable mince. I don't care if it's not right, not accurate. I very rarely do care if I'm right or accurate. Anyway, so the point is, we take over. You're taking over. We take over, take over. Sorry, it's hot at the moment, and my brain's frazzled. We take the mixture and put it along the middle of the pastry sheet. So it creates a nice trench along the center section ready to be folded. Another thing I absolutely adore is coriander. It always adds a fantastic fresh taste to practically anything. So I thought I would put a smidgen of coriander leaves, fresh coriander leaves, into the mixture to see if that makes any difference. And hopefully, maybe counteract if the Tabasco and the paprika was too strong for some of the people with weaker dispositions. We are now ready for the big fold. That is right, we take one side of the pastry and we fold it over to create a cylinder. I made some lewd jokes about that. Well, innuendo, it wasn't really a joke in the last video, so I won't bother rehashing those gags. But once that's done, you go along the edges, press down to coat the whole vegan sausage roll. And then you can take your knife and score along the sides and the top to add a bit of character to the sausage rolls, the vegan sausage rolls, and then cut accordingly. So far, so vegan. But I had a problem, didn't I? Well, I've got lots of problems, but I had a specific problem in relation to this recipe, which is to get the pastry golden and crispy and that beautiful colour. I use an egg wash, and obviously egg wash isn't vegan. So this is when I admit I had to look something up online to see if I could find a good alternative. A whole host of different options out there, including various milks, such as alternative nut milk. I don't know whether my friend has a nut allergy. I should have checked. So that's not that you get anaphylactic shock with a nut milk. Better safe than sorry. Let's not test that one out. Anyway, the one I found was some coconut milk mixed with maple syrup. That's what they said. Well, I don't have time to run through all the alternatives and test it out, so I do quite like coconut oil and I love maple syrup. So I thought, at the very least, even if it doesn't bring up the same sheen, I'm hoping it would have a nice sweet hint to the pastry. So that's the one I went for and mix the two together. The alternative to an egg vegan wash then gets dabbed over the pastry, ready for them to go into the oven. As per usual, they go onto a grease-proof bit of paper on an oven tray in the oven for about 220 degrees for 25 minutes or so. And I improvised. I went off script. I flipped the script because I was going to do another batch of sausage rolls, and then I didn't quite have enough alternative sausage meat, vegan sausage meat, to fill out the whole thing. So what I ended up doing was think, I know, let's do a pasty and see how that turns out. So I'm not sure whether actually I'm sure Greg's do vegan pasty. So let's see if I can get 2 for 1 and kick their ass on sausage rolls and pasties. So very similar. We just put two sides of the pastry with the filling, fold it over, do the various bits where you squeeze the edges together and score it and dab it with milk. You've just seen me do it. Righty ho, then we've prepared our vegan sausage roll and our vegan pasty. But I have to say, I am apprehensive. I was apprehensive because I'm doing this after the event, so I'm going to stop pretending I'm doing it in real time. I was very apprehensive because it didn't look as good as the traditional sausage rolls. I don't think the wash was quite the same, but hey, let's give it a go and stay positive. So into the oven on 220 for 25 minutes. Please let me know in the comments what you think, but I'm saying that the traditional sausage rolls with the egg wash on look better. Don't get me wrong, these look pretty good. They certainly look better than the banal beige pastry you get in Greg's, but it just doesn't have that succulent sheen that the egg wash gives off. I also did a traditional batch of sausage rolls in this session after the vegan sausage roll. I can point out with separate utensils, everything was clean, there was no cross contamination. So you can see them here as a direct side to side. Again, just that little bit of spark, that little bit of special shine that the egg wash gives. Oh, I'm sorry, coconut oil and maple syrup. But let's not dwell too much on the superficial shallowness of the looks. What does it taste like? Actually, it was freaking good. The pastry was crunchy. It perhaps didn't have that same moisture that the traditional one does, but the filling was fantastic. And there was even a little hint of spice and kick to it. So great. I actually really liked it. As I've never had a vegan sausage roll from Greg's, I can't really say whether my vegan sausage roll is better than Greg's. However, I'm going to ask my friend and see what she says. But I am pretty happy with the way this turned out. Hey, I'm not going to turn vegan, don't worry about that. But it's good to have these alternatives. So if you do have some vegan friends, think of some creative ways to engage with food and do something a bit different. Don't just give them friggin' Linda McCartney and quad and tofu and that stuff. And speaking of which, if you want to be my friend, please do like and subscribe. This is me throwing out some different ideas, trying to do something new and innovative. Not new and new. Someone's made a sausage roll before, but me being creative and looking at different things to entertain you.